One of the most important things in fantasy baseball is being able to identify high-value sleepers who have the potential to vastly outproduce their ADP and be cornerstone players in your starting lineup or part of your roster all season long. In this video, we're going to go over 10 must-draft sleeper hitters for the 2026 fantasy baseball season, and stay tuned because there may be some surprise omissions, some surprise additions, and always let me know your thoughts down below. Who are your favorite sleeper hitters heading into this fantasy baseball season? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris, and welcome to Number 2 Sports. So first things first, welcome back, boys or girls, whoever stuck with me last baseball season and throughout the basketball season. It's awesome to be back. I'm excited for fantasy baseball to be back again. So what we're going to do here is my 10 favorite sleepers for hitters, and then my next video, we're going to do my 10 favorite sleepers for pitchers. So this is going to be a two-part video, so make sure you sub if you haven't already. Like this video, hype this video. If by the end of it you actually do like it, and if you hate it, always smash that dislike, boy. We're not scared of dislikes around here. Okay, first up, we have a guy who is quietly continuing to improve year over year with subtle increases in his batting average, OBP slugging percentage, and OPS the last 3 seasons, and that's Alec Burleson of the St. Louis Cardinals. And even when we dig a little deeper and ignore those surface level stats and look at some advanced analytics, you can see that his barrel percentage has increased year over year, his exit velocity and his expected WOBA is practically identical to his actual WOBA in 2025. So he hasn't got like extremely lucky at the plate or extremely unlucky, and there's no real big red warning flags in his hitting profile, which is always a plus, always something you want to look at when you're evaluating hitters. As a high expected WOBA compared to actual WOBA often indicates a player is due for positive regression, they were unlucky at the plate, while a low expected WOBA compared to an actual WOBA suggests negative regression, it means they were lucky at the plate. Now back to Burleson, he isn't the flashiest player by any means, and for some reason every time I see his photo on the Yahoo app or I see him on TV, I envision him as like some seasoned vet when he's not that at all. He's still only 27 years old, heading into his 5th MLB season technically, and with Wilson Contreras gone now out of St. Louis, I think Burleson will get everyday playing time at first base, and he's somebody who easily can hit 20 plus homers and 80 plus RBI while racking up a bunch of hits and keeping a strikeout percentage below 15% due to his elite plate discipline and whiff percentage. I sort of feel like Burleson is like a poor man's Josh Naylor, who really isn't that far behind at all if he continues this slight improvement year over year, which I expect him to do. And lastly, before we move on here, one of the most important things about those slight improvements that he's been quietly making year over year is the way that he's attacking left-handed pitching and the way he's hitting it. In 2025, he stashed 271, 310, 398, raising that up from a pretty pitiful 195, 229, 286 in 2024. And it was a big leap, which allowed the Cardinals to use him as an everyday player rather than him being like a platoon bat. And I know the Cardinals lineup is not going to be very good this year, but he'll be in a premium spot in that order all season long, and he has first base and outfield eligibility. So getting Burleson at a current ADP of 176 on Yahoo seems like highway robbery, and I would be smash drafting him in that spot in every single draft. Feels like a classic low risk, high reward type situation for Alec Burleson heading into the 2026 fantasy baseball season. So this next sleeper pick is kind of turning into like a breakout pick based on the way that he is soaring up draft boards lately, and that's going to be Kazuma Okamoto from the Toronto Blue Jays, who is gaining a ton of steam as we power through spring training and the World Baseball Classic. So Okamoto was a consistent 30 plus homer guy in Japan, and yes, I know it obviously doesn't translate one for one players coming over to the majors. I know a lot of these guys do actually tend to really struggle when they get their first taste of major league pitching, so I know that is a thing. So I don't want to put a ton of emphasis on his stats from Japan. But if we just look at the World Baseball Classic in 2023 and the World Baseball Classic going on right now, even though we don't have a ton of information from it as I'm recording this, he had a triple stash line in 2023 of 333, 556, 722 with a 1.278 OPS in 27 plate appearances. Just shedding maybe some light on how he might adjust to major league pitching. Regardless of that though, what I do really like, and I could care less where he did it, is his ability to hit the ball in the air to his pull side, which anyone who followed me last year knows we talked about that a lot. When you can drive the ball in the air to your pull side consistently, generally good things tend to happen. And one, I know I said we're just not really going to put any emphasis on his Japan stats. If you want to look them up, you can. One stupid silly stat from the JPCL was his weighted runs created plus, which is at 210, meaning he was twice as good as the league average, which was at 100. So he dominated that league for 7 seasons. And coming over to North America, I think he found the perfect fit and the perfect home in the Toronto Blue Jays. His style of game will fit perfectly with that lineup and what they tend to do and what they want to do on a nightly basis. And as long as that he can stay healthy and the transition period isn't too rough, I do think he will be okay once he adjusts to it. I expect big things from Okamoto in 2026. Okay, next up, we're going to stick in T-Dot with another player, and that's going to be Addison Barger off the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Barger really did have a breakout type season last year for those Jays, being an integral part of their lineup and an essential piece for their postseason run that just fell short of a World Series victory. Now, Barger ranked in the top 10% of the league last year in hard hit rate. He had a max exit velocity of 116.5 miles per hour, which is in the top 3%, so he can absolutely smoke it from the left side of the plate. His bat speed is also in the 93rd percentile, and he also has a 21.1% pull air percentage. My favorite stat being good for the top 75. So everything under the hood with Barger screams just loud contact, which is the money maker for fantasy baseball. It's not all sunshine and roses though, as Barger can struggle with strikeouts and he doesn't have the best plate discipline at times, and he tends to struggle against left-handed pitching. Being a strict platoon player for portions of the season last year, Barger batted .249 against righties, but only .217 against lefties. But by season's end and into the postseason, Barger was practically an everyday player for those Blue Jays. The Blue Jays needed the bat, and more importantly, they needed that arm in the lineup. In 2025, Barger hit 21 home runs with 74 RBI, 36 walks for a 756 OPS, and I do think that he can improve on those numbers heading into 2026. Coming into the year, there was maybe the possibility of going back to more of a part-time platoon role, but with Santander being out of the picture now, at least for the foreseeable future, and Barger just having incredible defense, his arm in right field being one of just the best in the league, he has an absolute cannon back there. He will always find ways into the lineup, even if he goes through mini slumps at the dish. Say he just sits half the time against lefties, he makes 0 improvements on that front, which honestly I just don't think is realistic. I do think he is going to improve this year against left-handed pitching. It's still a right-handed dominant league. So he would sit, say, 1 out of 10 games, and it would be like a non-impact for fantasy purposes. So still at 26 years old, with last year really being his first full season in the majors, I expect improvements in Barger's game across the board. And if he can continue to improve against lefties, bump up that average just a little bit, improve his plate discipline, and cut his strikeouts and whiffs down just a few percentage points, I like Barger as like a must-draft sleeper in every league with a current ADP of 189. Feels like highway robbery. I think he could smash that, no question, end up with one of the better draft day steals if everything falls his way. Okay, we're going to keep going with a first base option from the Cleveland Guardians, Kyle Manzardo. Now, the biggest thing, of course, whenever talking about a left-handed hitter is can they and will they get opportunities to hit against southpaws when they're on the mound? For Manzardo, it's hard to say because he only got 95 plate appearances against them in 2025, but some of his underlying stats did say that he got a little bit unlucky. He should have performed better than what he actually did. Manzardo is a guy who can get the barrel on the baseball. He has a 23.8% pull air percentage, which is good for top 50 in the league. He has shown the ability to draw walks with a 9% walk rate in 2025, and he did get a little bit unlucky with his BABIP of 265 when the league average does hover around 300, so we should expect some positive regression in that area as well heading into 2026. Now, there are for sure flaws in his game. Anybody Anybody that you're selecting above an ADP of 200 is not perfect by any mean. They all do carry some sort of risk, but you have to remember, we aren't investing a lot of draft capital in these guys with picks above 200. If they don't pan out, we can just drop them in the first couple of weeks or first few weeks for the next waiver wire hot commodity and move on without it killing our team. It's like a low risk, but just high reward opportunity. So if we look at last season, Manzardo and Cleveland gave us a little glimmer of hope with him starting 7 of the final 10 games against lefties, including in the playoff game against King Skubal on the mound. This is a guy who had 27 home runs and 70 RBI last year with solid quality of contact metrics, which puts him in a solid position to improve on that in 2026. With an ADP of 214, he's currently being selected outside the top 20 for his position. But I believe he is a bargain at that price as a power hitting corner infield option who won't necessarily destroy you in the batting average department. I am hopeful that the 26-year-old, who still is young, will make improvements against lefties this year and will take that third year professional leap that we see a lot of guys do in the MLB. I am fucking buzzing right now. I just crushed an ice cap. All my Canadian boys know what I'm talking about. Shout out Timmy Hose, but we're going to keep going with a 22-year-old left hitting catcher who really just displayed impressive power numbers at AAA and in the major leagues last year. That is Coach Carter Jensen from the Kansas City Royals. So the Royals top prospect batted .288 with a .647 slugging percentage and hit 14 home runs with a 16.3 walk rate in 43 AAA games before being called up by the Royals in September. Now, like most young guys, they do tend to struggle when they get their first taste of major league pitching. But that just didn't happen at all for Jensen. He proceeded to hit 3 home runs with only a 17.4 strikeout rate, a 941 OPS in 69 plate appearances. Nice. And his StatCast page was just insane. It was off the charts, bleeding red everywhere. He's looking like the greatest hitter of all time in that limited sample size. Now, obviously, it's not going to continue at this pace in 2026, but the underlying metrics are promising. He has great bat speed. His expected wOBA was higher than his actual, and he has great plate discipline with his ability to draw walks. He drew walks 13% of the time in the majors, and he has the underlying power needed to be successful against major league pitching. If we just look at that small sample size last year in September, those 20 games, he had a 95.4 average exit velocity, and the only qualified major league hitter that was better was O'Neal Cruz. And it's not like it was some fluke either. He had a 94 mile per hour average exit velocity in AAA as well. Now, there are two huge glaring issues with big power guys like this. It can be the lack of contact and launch angle, but neither seem to be an issue with Jensen. His chase rate is just superb. His zone contact is in the upper 40% of the league. And yes, his pull air percentage was 20.8%, something that just makes my pants a little tight. So looking ahead to 2026, Salvador Perez doesn't want to catch that much. He's getting old. He's getting ancient. Those knees must just be completely mangled. I do believe the Royals know what they have in Jensen, and if he can lock down a spot in the middle of that Royals order somewhere near or around Bobby Witt Jr., I am extremely bullish on him, and he's one of my favorite lottery tick picks in the entire draft. If you're the type of guy who likes to wait on catcher or stream it throughout the year, Jensen is your guy right now around pick 200. I don't think there's anyone at the catcher position with as much upside and as much potential as Jensen going around that ADP. And then one stat, just to really make your pants tight trying to pop through there. In September last season, there were only 3 players who accomplished a 95 mile per hour exit velocity, a 20% barrel rate, and a 58% hard hit percentage. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, and you guessed it, baby, Coach Carter Jensen from the Kansas City Royals. Take me to the moon, son. Next up, we're going to go with somebody who is absolutely raw power. It just didn't translate to success in his first stint in the majors last year, and that's going to be Jack Caglianone from the Kansas City Royals. Now, Jack did not have a good year at the plate last year, at least statistically speaking, batting a .157 with a .532 OPS. Like, that is not good when your OPS is below the 6s, but he did manage, however, 7 home runs in a 62-game sample size. It was a small sample size, but if we do dig a little bit deeper, though, Caglianone was very unlucky at the plate last year with his expected batting average being 80 points higher at 237 and his expected wOBA being practically the same difference at 321 from an actual of 239. So if we just play in Fantasyland for a second here and just imagine that his actuals were more like his expected, a sub 240 batting average in a 60 game sample size for someone's first taste in the majors and didn't end up hitting less than most people's body weight at 157, we'd be looking at Kegs a lot differently heading into this year. So Keglion has demonstrated absolute power at every level of his professional career so far. He's hit a ball as hard as 114.1 miles per hour in the major leagues last year, which is a number only 10%ers of the hitters reached in 2025. And if that wasn't impressive enough for you, or thinking, oh, maybe that was just a fluke, he mashed the ball at 120 miles per hour this spring training, which only 7 players have ever achieved in a Major League Baseball game. Cruz, Stan, Acuna, Judge, Sanchez, Vladdy, and Ohtani. Now, do I think Kegs is going to turn into that type of fitter? Absolutely not. It'll be very unlikely. I'm just emphasizing the underlying tools and skill set are there for him to have real power at the major league level, and we should try not to make harsh judgments or jump to conclusions about a 22-year-old kid who just struggled in his first 62 games at the major league level. Keglion has first base and outfield eligibility heading into this year. He'll potentially hit in a potent spot in that Kansas City Royals lineup, somewhere around Witt, Pasquantino, and Perez, and add in the fact that he's unbelievable bat speed, and the Royals moved their ballpark 10 feet in, moved their fences 10 feet in this year. Kegs is absolutely loaded with upside if he can just make some slight improvements in his second stint in the big leagues. I am super high on him, not only as a sleeper player, but a breakout player that you can get around pick 200 in your drafts right now. The reward just seems so high heading into 2026. Okay, you know we have to at least throw in one old dog here in this sleeper list, and that's going to be Marcus Semien off the New York Mets. Now, this one is definitely a little scarier just based on his age. He'll turn 36 by the end of this season, and just honestly, looking back at 2025, how he started that season, he was just downright bad. He batted 198 in April and 207 in May with an OPS that wasn't in the 600s, and that's just not something you want as a professional baseball player. It actually looked like he could be done, like his career was just going to be done. He was just going straight down the shitter at 100 miles per hour, but Semien did prove a lot of people wrong in the second half of the year in the last 70-so-ish games. He was hitting the ball better. He got his OPS up to reasonable professional baseball levels, and he was just giving you some of that production that we've come to expect from him over the years from the Seaman. It was still a drop-off from his prime years when he was a lot younger, when his legs were a lot fresher, but it wasn't as drastic as a drop that we saw in that first 40 games of 2025. It was definitely usable production for fantasy the second half of the year from the Seaman. So if we stop reminiscing for a sec here and look heading into 2026, a couple things that I do like that make me a little bit excited to get my pants a little bit tight for the Seaman heading into this year is, one, his new ballpark in Citi Field is very friendly to right-handed hitters. Per StatCast, expected home runs by ballpark, the Seaman would have hit 20 more bombs playing every game there over the past 3 years, and obviously there are home and away splits, but even if that number is just 5 or 6 more per year, that is helpful. That does make his end of season fantasy line a lot better, and the Seaman is a pull fly ball guy with the 23.8% pull air percentage. And yes, Citi Field does reward that for right-handers. Secondly, the Mets lineup could be very good this year, and if he can manage a premium spot in that order, there should be plenty of RBI opportunity and plenty of run potential as a guy who in the past has predominantly had great plate discipline and K rates. Now, the Seaman could just legitimately be cooked at 35 years old, 36 by the end of the season. But at this price tag, that's the big thing here. At this price tag, I do believe it's worth the risk in a weak position in fantasy at second base. Sometimes a change of scenery can just inject some youth into those old legs and make him, the Seaman, turn the clock back for a year. At an ADP around 200 right now for Yahoo leagues, I like that price point and will be targeting him if I wait on second base heading into my drafts this year. All right, I'm ready to fall into the trap of one of the standout spring training studs right now, and that's going to be Matty Ice, Matt McLain from the Cincinnati Reds. So has Matty Boy done enough for us to fall back in? Are we going to fall for that classic hot start spring training trap that you see every year? Honestly, I'm starting to feel like I want to get suckered back in a little bit as he's put up video game like numbers in spring training so far. Like if you just look at this shit, it is pretty ridiculous. It's reminding people of what he did in 2023 and probably clouding everyone's perception of how bad his 2025 actually was. Usually, I definitely tend to be overcautious when looking at spring training numbers to try and project what that player might be like heading into the season for a bunch of different reasons. For one, there could just be less pressure on the hitter. And two, they could just be facing weaker pitching talent or pitchers specifically just wanting to work on a specific mechanic or a new pitch that they're trying to adjust to. And just overall, they're obviously not throwing at 100%. They're just getting worked back up, trying to build that stamina. So it definitely is a lower level of pitching. And also, pitchers probably aren't game planning too much specifically for hitters in spring training like they would be in the regular season. So it can be a completely different dynamic where you do tend to see these guys run pretty hot in spring, and then when they get over to the regular season, they cool right off. But one thing that does give me a little hope though is McLean is having a similar spring training to like he did back in 2023 when he went on to have a great rookie season, hitting 16 home runs, swiping 14 bags with a 290, 357, 507 triple stash and an 864 OPS. And then for reference, his 2025 spring training was nowhere near that. He was struggling, and then he struggled during the season. So it does give a little bit of hope that he can carry this momentum heading into the regular season. Obviously not at this level. He will not be this good, but hopefully sustain some of the success in spring training and translate it to regular season success again, like he did in 2023. So I could slightly be on board overlooking his disastrous 2025 season, where honestly, there just wasn't that many positives in his hitting profile at all, but he's still young. He was still figuring out the league. He had injuries completely derail his 2024 season, and I assume that whole offseason heading up into the 2025 season, he would have spent most his time rehabbing, trying to get his body healthy, back up to speed physically, rather than potentially working on specific parts of his games, his mechanics, or anything like that. So that could have been one of the reasons that he was struggling compared to this offseason when he went into it healthy, and maybe he's worked on some stuff. I know I have read some things that he's trying to work on hitting breaking balls down and away like a lot of young guys do struggle with in the majors. He's using a 1/4 inch longer bat too to try and give him more coverage over the plate for those pitches. So it's not big changes, but it's not small changes. It is tangible changes, and maybe it's giving him some success. I also just like that McLean is superb at defense, so to always keep his bat in the lineup, even if he goes through mini slumps at the dish. With a current ADP of around 200 right now in Yahoo leagues, and second base just being such a crapshoot position anyways, I'm kind of all for it right now, and I'm ready for it to absolutely burn me in the ass, burn in my dick. But he's a low risk, high reward if he's regained his hitting stroke and confidence from his promising rookie year. Just be mindful how high his ADP is going to creep up, because people are going to get horny by the second if he continues this torrid stretch in spring training. Like, I like the risk now, but I won't be so chubbed up if his ADP jumps into like the 150-ish range. Okay, and for this last guy here, we're going to do a little Chris's 3-for-1 special. You know, I'm going to lump 3 rookies in together because I couldn't just decide on one. And also with just rookies in general, you normally don't want to stockpile a ton of them on your roster because so many rookies do end up flopping. But of course, there are rookies every year that literally turn into league winners, like Nick Kurtz last season. It's just very hard to find. It is seldom now. A lot of kids do end up struggling. So that's why these 3 are getting lumped into one. So the first guy up, we're going to have Connor Griffin. Now, he's actually kind of turning maybe into more of a breakout instead of a sleeper pick, with his ADP continually rising the closer we get to the season and the more hype he's getting about actually starting up with the big league club, the Pirates, this year. For what it's worth, knowing how Pittsburgh operates a little bit, they'll probably keep him down to manipulate his service time, but you never know. Nobody has any idea except that inside the Pirates organization. So now Griffin, 19 years old, turning 20 in April. The sky just does seem to be the limit for this kid. He has all the physical tools and strength, plus speed, plus power. He's plus defensively. And just to put the praise and hype into a statistical perspective, that was a hard word to say. In 2025, across 3 levels, he hit 21 home runs with 23 doubles, 4 triples for a total of 48 extra base hits in just 122 games, while also swiping 65 bags on top of that as a teenager, becoming the 5th teenager ever to join the 20 home run, 40 stolen base club in a single minor league season. The hype is real. Even if he does start in the minors, he's well worth the draft, stash, and wait until he forces his way up into the majors. The Pirates should actually be improved this year too, so I think that will force their hand a little bit more than we've seen in years past. like that Bubba Chandler situation that we saw last year, which is just absolutely tragic. I like the kid. I like the hype. I like the potential. Just pay close attention here to how the end of spring training ends, if he's going to stay up with the club, and what happens with his ADP with whatever the corresponding news is. Then next up, the next rookie here in this little 3-for-1 here is going to be Kevin McConnell. Now, I'm not sure he's going to actually make the team out of spring training. That's the one big uncertainty with him, but his hitting tools are great. He's a fantasy stud written all over him if he can hit the majors running. His plate discipline is top notch. I think he will be able to tap into some power. He can steal bases. It's all there for him besides a defensive home, which might prevent him from breaking camp. You got to keep your eye on Mr. Kevin, though, as a late round stash rookie, oozing with potential upside. And then the last one, probably one of my favorite ones out of the bunch there, is going to be JJ Weatherholt. Now, he should be the Cardinals' starting second baseman after they traded away Brendan Donovan, and Nolan Arenado is gone as well, opening up another spot in that infield. Last year, across 3 levels, he hit .306 with 17 home runs, 23 steals, and a .931 OPS. The kid has power, has speed, has amazing contact. He plays all over the infield, so the Cardinals will find a spot for him somewhere. He legit could be a 5-category contributor immediately. I'm not joking. The kid could just literally hit the ground running from day one. If you guys thought you were getting out of this video without a bonus guy, you were dead wrong. Okay, last step here, bonus guy, we're going Jordan Lawler. Now, this may seem like a broken record since we have been waiting for like 2 years now for Lawler to do something in the big leagues or get his fair opportunity, whether it be injuries or maybe Arizona's not as high as him as they once were, or his 35% strikeout rate in his career 28 MLB games to sink in his stock. It sort of has people turning their backs against him heading into the 2026 fantasy baseball season. And I think that's where there is value to be had. At 23 years old, the raw skill set is still there for him to be a force in category leagues as a power speed combo guy if he can make some slight improvements heading into 2026. Lawler is still someone who has been exceptional at the AAA level. He pulls the ball in the air a lot, something by now that you guys know that I just like, and it's usually coupled with good plate discipline as well. There's news that he might get a chance to win a starting job in the outfield too, and this could finally be the season where we see him approach 400 plate appearances in the major league level. His back is against the wall, and it's prove it time for him now, really, for his career to start off on the right path. Call me crazy, call me a dumb believer, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Jordan Lawler finish this season as a 2020 guy by the end of 2026. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. If you're not sub, make sure you sub. We're going to be a ton more fantasy pre-draft content over the next couple weeks here. We're going to follow this up with my 10 must-draft sleeper pitchers. We're going to do some breakouts. We're going to do some round-by-round analysis type stuff. So hit that button, hit that thumbs up, hype it if you like it. And as always, have a good rest of your day, night, week, weekend, wherever you are. And I'll see you guys real soon.